Welcome to Fanfiction Audiobooks. Strongest Thor in Marvel. Chapter 101 Sky in the Rebellious Period. After listening to him quietly, Peggy Carter was stunned for a while before sighing, "Your words are really cruel." Intellectually, she still agrees with Thor. Thor shook his head, "It's not that I'm cruel. In my opinion, as long as it doesn't betray the human position, superheroes should not have any constraints, so that it can develop better. Compared with that loss, the Earth will be destroyed in a few years. There will be a real catastrophe, and if it cannot be overcome, at least 3.5 billion people will be reduced to ashes. The worst result is that the other half will perish. No one can guarantee that Thanos will only be half destroyed in the end. What if the policy is changed in advance? In the face of the crisis of destroying the world, I don't want anyone to hold me back, and I don't want those who are protected to still suck blood from behind. That's why you asked Sky to get you this information as a trump card." Thor nodded. Although fists are more useful than reasoning, it is quite annoying for a group of people to kidnap Deo07 all day long. "I will publish this information at the most appropriate time, so that we can get revenge before the ultimate war comes. Those who can fight without any worries. Well, I believe in you and will do everything well. Here, this is another document you asked for, this is the only one, you have to keep it safe. Also, don't reveal that I gave it to you." Sky handed over a USB flash drive. Thor. Anyway, she is also a member of S.H.I.E.L.D, and helping Thor to do this kind of thing is actually a betrayal of SHIELD. But since the founder Carter didn't object, then there's nothing wrong. Sky thought to himself. Thor took the USB flash drive, nodded with satisfaction, and "Thanks, if there is anything that needs my help, I will try my best to help." Sky rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "Okay, I haven't tried what it's like to have a boyfriend at my age, so please do me a favor. Learn to tease me at a young age." Thor was overjoyed and hugged her. "Okay, I'll take you home tonight." "Ah!" Sky screamed, struggled quickly, and said insincerely with a blushing face, forget it, I'm afraid that Auntie will kill me." Thor gave this coward a contemptuous look. "Don't dare to do it, cowardly." Sky glared, "Old antiques from decades ago eat tender grass, scum." Sky suddenly felt a broken idol image. Although the little girl was a little funny, but after all, she helped him a lot. Thor took a communicator and handed it to her. "This one has been modified. When there is a problem that can't be solved, press the communication button, and I can receive it within 2 galaxies. There are not many things in this world that I can't do." Sky had an expression of "I believe in you, then I want to be a superhero, can you help me too?" "That's not certain," Thor said meaningfully. Sky was stunned for a moment, and his face instantly became excited. "Really? Tell me quickly, what is my super ability? How can I awakening?" Hell, are agents so sensitive? In fact, he didn't know much about Sky's situation, and he wasn't very familiar with the S.H.I.E.L.D series in his previous life, so he had to muddle along. He tapped his index finger on Sky's smooth forehead. "What kind of super ability do you want? Haven't you heard of it? The poor rely on mutation, and the rich rely on technology. Are you poor?" Sky was confused. "Do you know Iron Man? He is just an ordinary person, and now he is not as good as the well-known superhero? When are you going to ask him for a battle armor? Are you a superhero?" Sky suddenly looked disappointed. "Forget it, that guy is a baby of his armor, and it won't work for anyone. Besides, his armor operation can't be played without relevant skills. Look at Rhodes, just turned the steel armor into a humanoid fighter." Thor showed a smile. She was on point. Stark's Iron Man, all kinds of weapons are full of imagination, all kinds of laser cannons, and in the future, there will be various weapons composed of nanometal elements. As for War Machine Rhodes, his combat style is actually not much different from that of a multifunction fighter. It is either a machine gun or a missile, and the replacement is only equipped with various conventional weapons. Compared with Iron Man, it is far behind. Not to mention the more and more weird functions of the Iron Man armor: refrigeration, drying, urine purification. Big shit, are you going to pee and drink it directly into your mouth? To sum up, Iron Man's armor evolution route is MK2, MK3, MK4. The evolution route of War Machine is MK2, MK2 change, MK2 change again, MK2 magic change. The later anti-Hulk armor is also, Stark's control of anti-Hulk is enough to suppress the Hulk. But in the hands of Bruce Banner, he became a tough guy who could stumble while walking. Skye took the communicator and left contentedly. Then Thor got a call from her in the middle of the night. 060 bang bang. Looking at the two large human-shaped holes on the roof and the floor of the second floor, Skye's eyes straightened. I just want to try the effect, why don't you come in? Skye wanted to cry but had no tears. She knows that Thor is fast, wearing pajamas too late to wear such things does not exist. The problem is, how many years did my mother spend saving to decorate the house? Oh. I was just worried that you were in danger, so I rushed here at the first time, and I didn't have time to knock on the door. Thor is serious. Try the effect? Zhou Yawang said that Lao Tzu's Feng Guo drama princes also tried the effect. The more beautiful a woman is, the more she will deceive people. The ancients never deceived me. I must teach a lesson to suppress this kind of atmosphere. Seeing Thor's appearance, Skye didn't know what to do, and kept silent with a mournful face. In fact, after a short time with her, she has discovered that Thor is by no means as decent as he appears on the surface. If she continues to complain about the hole in the roof, Thor will most likely take the opportunity to invite her to Manor 1E. In the dark room, a deep voice sounded, I'm afraid the plan will be implemented ahead of schedule. A frantic voice rang out, Hydra hail! Chapter 102, History and Number 039, S Legendary Crucifixion Day. This is no longer a world where politicians can decide everything. Pierce's plan only works on mortals, and it's up to them to wipe out ordinary enemies. To fight against the so-called gods, only those with the same super ability can do it. Let's start the great experiment now. It doesn't matter if you fail. I have issued a notice for volunteers. We have no shortage of experimental products. The bodies of those who failed the experiment will not be left behind. And as long as someone can succeed, the revenge the ones will have nothing to worry about. This is an age of miracles, and nothing can be more terrifying than miracles. A display screen in the room is playing the scene of Thor pointing at the sky and thunder pouring down from the sky. On the other side of the room, a mysterious scepter is placed on the shelf, and the head of the scepter is a gemstone emitting dark blue light. Outside Sokovya's base, a man and a woman walked over supporting each other. Pietro, are we really going in? Well, only in this way can there be hope for revenge. Actually, I don't really care about revenge, as long as we are all safe. Wanda, you are too soft-hearted. The impact of the New York War is huge amounts of, and the first thing that bears the brunt is that superhero really came into people's sight. Laser weapons, aliens. These words, people wake up, it turns out that these are real. Even the existence of magic, many people began to accept. Except for a very small number of staunch atheists. Stephen Strange is one of them. The so-called Thor is an ordinary person with a special constitution. It's just an ordinary discharge phenomenon, can't electric eels do it too? The so-called magic and the power of faith do not exist, they are just some phenomena that have not been explained by science. There is no spiritual power at all, and human beings are just night and night. But, I'm not human. Thor spread his hands. He didn't know which nerve was wrong, and he had nothing to do to debate with the future Doctor Strange. He was really free recently. Miss Jane went out to relax for a while, and started astronomical research again. And Natalia is busy with things, it is impossible to accompany him all day long. Steve could, but lately he's been picking up on the knowledge of the times. Moreover, the simple sparring without divine power actually improves slowly. Hela is a good choice, but that grandpa is too moody. If you are in a good mood, you are the elder sister. If you are in a bad mood, you are the mother wrong. The little needle pokes your chest. Strange was choked by Thor, and then reacted, no, not only humans, aliens are also material, you just have stronger physiques, longer lifespans, and some magical abilities. Within the scope of science, if modern humans appeared in the Middle Ages, they would also be regarded as gods. Two boring people. Christine Palmer couldn't help frowning, and Nebula and Minerva nodded at the same time. Stark's operation was performed by Strange, and she was the second in command. After the successful operation, both became famous. They definitely knew that without Thor, Stark would not have trusted them so easily, so they came to the door to thank them. Thor was about to refute, when a system voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Drip, congratulations to the host for triggering Doctor Strange's exclusive mission, Mysterious Realm. The future Doctor Strange is now a staunch materialist. Shake his mind, and he accepts this mysterious world. Mission objective, to show Strange a phenomenon that completely conflicts with scientific ideas. Mission reward skill, Soul Astral. Soul Astral. Passive effect, the soul can be separated from the body. After the separation, the soul is physically immune and unable to launch physical attacks, but it will suffer soul damage and magic attacks. Active effect concentrate, slap the opponent's chest, and push his soul out of the body. When the opponent resists, the success rate and effect duration will change the opponent's determination. Soul Astral, this is a very powerful skill. Haven't you seen the Hulk Master of Ancient One? The disadvantage is that it requires close quarters and requires concentration. It is generally suitable for dealing with some particularly rough-skinned and thick-skinned enemies. As for the way to complete the task, pure thunder will definitely not work. Shi Chuangkai has already determined that he is of the same nature as the electric eel. Mr. Strange, I will let you understand how small the world you see is. He stretched out his hand and gestured, and then a golden circle appeared under Strange, who was puzzled, and fell down with a plop. What happened? A big change. Christine Palmer looked confused. It's nothing, it's just a free fall. Don't worry, the limit speed of a person's free fall on the Earth is about 50 meters per second, and it won't make him burn. It suddenly occurred to him that Doctor Strange had also used this trick on Loki, and the effect was great. Miss Palmer, are you interested in working in my research center? Maya and Betty need an assistant with a lot of medical knowledge. Thor happily dug the corner, but at this moment Strange was forced. He was still in the living room just now, and suddenly he found himself hundreds of meters high in the air, with the snow mountain below. Just when he thought he was going to fall to his death, a golden halo of sparks appeared in front of his eyes. In the next moment, he found, how about money, that he was back at an altitude of several hundred meters. The distance was reset, but the falling speed was not reset. Under the action of gravity, he fell at a faster speed. Even more tragically, he's no Loki, with no more than mortal physical ability to sustain a mid-puff sound. At the beginning, he could still bark, but when his speed reached a certain level, he opened his mouth and found that the cold wind kept pouring into his mouth, which bulged his mouth into a big hole, and he wanted to close it. It's all gone. He felt like his mouth was turning into a Plant vs. Zombie pea shooter. Camartage, Ancient One sighed, waved his hand, and put a halo on Strange to prevent him from being killed. Although it is a good thing to let one's successor get in touch with the mystery in advance, it can't let him be played to death. Chapter 103 Insight Plan. Drib. Congratulations to the host for completing the task related to Doctor Strange's mysterious domain, and getting the reward skill, Soul Astral. The free fall lasted for about 10 minutes, and Thor heard the sound of the system completing the task. He waved his hand in satisfaction, and Strange's falling speed began to slow down. A few seconds later, it fell to the floor with a plop. Seeing this miserable appearance, Thor felt a little sorry. Should there be? Strange gasped for a few breaths, and said hopelessly, I've been in free fall for 10 minutes. It took only 10 minutes for this kind of virtue, far from Loki's. It's really scary, I always thought that bungee jumping was scary enough. Strange still complained with lingering fear, don't you have something less exciting? Yes. Thor slapped his chest, and then a translucent Strange flew out of his body. This time, not only him, but everyone else in the living room was shocked. Oh! Is this the soul? The soul state didn't last long, Strange returned to his body after a few seconds. The time for the soul to leave the body is related to willpower. It must be said that Doctor Strange's willpower is really excellent, and he can recover in just a few seconds. Only with this kind of firm will can you defeat Dormammu with such a brutal method. I'm beginning to doubt the education I've received over the years. Strange sighed. There is no need to completely deny it, Thor patted him on the shoulder. In the world of advanced civilizations, science and mystery are originally interconnected. Christine Palmer didn't agree to jump ship right away, she still needs to think about it. After all, she has only met Thor twice, and she seriously suspects that Thor actually wants to keep her in the manor. Thor didn't care about this either. In fact, he didn't care much about the development of the research center. He just wanted to stop it as a girl's career hobby. Sir, please allow me to introduce the new project of SHIELD. Since the appearance of Iron Man, various crises have emerged one after another in the past few years. The Abomination, the Iron Man, and even the aliens in the New York War have caused too much damage to my people. Harm. Yes, we have Avengers, but Avengers can only be repaired after the fact. What we need is to prevent this. Alexander Pierce was speaking to the council. Even the Avengers can't cook to prevent the crisis, what else can you do? A female congressman said. Insight plan. By monitoring the whole world, find all hazards during the incubation period, and bring the whole world into view. Minister Pierce, please explain in detail. The Zola algorithm left by Dr. Zola, through precise calculations, screens out all those who cause harm to this world, and destroys them before they take action, instead of waiting for the disaster to happen before looking for the Avengers. Pierce's description seems to be very good, but the council still has doubts. After all, doing so will inevitably lead to panic. Moreover, they doubted the reliability of Zola's algorithm. We can't give you an answer right away, hope you understand. Walking out of the hall, the pity on Pierce's face instantly disappeared, replaced by a gloomy expression. He picked up his cell phone and dialed an unremarked number. Since you still need to think about it, add more fire. Alexander Pierce, the former director of S.H.I.E.L.D., single-handedly promoted Nick Fury and let him take over as director. After retiring, he did not leave S.H.I.E.L.D., but continued to contribute to it as a veteran figure. No one would think that such a person, the real identity is actually Hydra. Originally, he was not so anxious about the Insight plan, but Thor's strength made him feel threatened. What worries him even more is that Thor and Peggy Carter have a close relationship. If he wants to control S.H.I.E.L.D., he can push Peggy Carter back to the fore at any time. A few days later, a news alarmed the council. A secret ship of S.H.I.E.L.D. was hijacked by pirates, and even the high-level agent Sitwell became a hostage. Fortunately, Captain America and Black Widow dispatched in time, wiped out the pirates and regained the ship. Everything was safe and sound. 0. Seeking flowers. Even so, this incident was like a slap in the face of S.H.I.E.L.D., and it was also slapped in the face of the Security Council, which was furious. It's not right. Natalia analyzed her opinion to Thor. Although they have enough motivation and strength, being able to hijack this secret ship shows that they have buried a chess piece with a high status inside S.H.I.E.L.D., which could have played a greater role. And, this time, Steve and I seem to be going too well. It's normal. It's not bad to have reached this level in a hastily arranged game. Thor smiled lightly. For some reason, this plot happened a year ahead of schedule, and the other party was not ready yet. 0. A bureau? You mean, this is a scene directed and acted by Sitwell's agent? What is his purpose? Natalia had heard Thor say that Sitwell had a problem, and she suspected him the 10th time. Sitwell? It's just a pawn, not worthy of being a game setter. Get ready, S.H.I.E.L.D. is about to change. Is it finally time to find out Hydra? Then what should I do? Natalia became excited. How to do the work of an agent? You are more familiar with me, do you want me to teach you? Oh, yes, any form of beauty tricks is prohibited. Thor remembered that in the original plot, Natalia and Captain America were quite different. Eye to eye, even though history has changed now, he still reminded me. Are you sick? Natalia glared at Thor and waved the magic bracelet on her hand. Except for you, everyone who regards me as a woman regrets it. It can grow into a forest. Through these 3 brand new space carriers, we can use satellites to read out the enemy's DNA before he acts, and attack him first. Before the criminal commits a crime, he will be arrested first. Nick Fury introducing the Insight Project to Steve. According to the law, shouldn't one be guilty first and then punished? Steve raised an objection. Captain America is a bit confused, and there is such an operation? Son. Chapter 104, The Spinach Egg Attack. What do you think about the Insight plan? I think some concepts are actually very desirable, but they may have great side effects. In Trudheim Manor, Sharon Carter was testing Thor's opinion. Once this plan is implemented, it will inevitably bring earth-shaking changes to the world, and once it starts, there is no turning back, which makes her very confused, so she has to come to Thor to find the answer. In her eyes, Thor from a higher-level civilization should be able to see the essence of things better. To me, this is a very stupid plan. The starting point for the development of the crime prevention system is good. The key is to take measures to reduce future losses after the discovery of possible crimes in 263. If someone is arrested or even shot dead before committing a crime, then the crime never happened, so what is he guilty of? Modern criminal law forbids the analogy of guilt. Sharon was somewhat enlightened. She continued to ask, then let me give you an example, if it is a mustache before the war, can't it be processed in advance? Thor smiled, don't forget, mustache also rose with the support of the Germans. If the algorithm of the Insight plan is followed, the entire Germany will be destroyed. Genocide, that's it. Sharon Carter feels a chill. Thor continued to make up his knife. Have you considered one more thing? The so-called crime prevention system, if it lacks effective control or is used improperly, it will become the umbrella of totalitarianism to stabilize the regime. Or are you sure that every insight the person in charge of the plan has no selfish intentions? Needless to say, I understand. Sharon Carter turned and left. She was going to remind Nick Fury about Insight's plan to think more about it. The conversation between Nick Fury and Steve ended badly. But after Steve left, Marinate was silent for a long time by himself. He admitted from the bottom of his heart that what Steve said made a lot of sense. Ding-ling-ling, the bell rang. He picked up the microphone, listened for a minute, and put it down expressionlessly. "Where's Minister Pierce?" "In the conference room. Receive the council. Tell him that I have something important to discuss with him. I have to ask you to launch a vote to postpone the Insight plan. We still need to further confirm its safety." Nick Fury spoke righteously. "What if there is something wrong with the inspection?" Pierce narrowed his eyes. "Then we are lucky to have found it, and the space carrier hasn't gone to the sky yet." Pierce was silent for a moment, then nodded. "Okay," I said, "yes. You'll have to call Iron Man or Thor to my nephew's birthday party, though." Nick Fury walked out, the smile on Pierce's face disappeared immediately, and he picked up a spare phone sullenly. Not long after Nick Fury went out, he was assassinated before he got home, a masked man with metal arms. He hurried to Steve's house and sent important information to Steve, but he was assassinated by the second wave, this time with an unclear gunshot wound. Sharon Carter rushed in with a gun, looking around vigilantly. "I'm going to chase the enemy." Steve left a word and rushed out. Sharon Carter called the emergency, and then noticed a mobile phone in the hand of the marinated egg, with a line on it, "Let Thor collect the body for me." Steve chased the killer, Winter Soldier, down the street. Originally, it was still possible for him to catch the opponent, but during another close fight, he grabbed Winter Soldier's mask, and then... "Bucky? Are you Bucky? Great, you're alive." The Winter Soldier took the opportunity to put him down and disappeared into the night. Nick Fury's death hit Steve hard. He was still sad, but he was notified by Rumlow and returned to S.H.I.E.L.D. under the protection of a team of agents. Alexander Pierce made some hints and temptations to Steve, but Steve remained unmoved. Under heavy pursuit, he escaped from S.H.I.E.L.D. and joined Black Widow. Alexander took the opportunity to push Nick Fury's murder on Steve and listed him as a wanted criminal. This USB flash drive has been programmed with a special code. Once we insert it into a 2.8 computer, the location will be exposed immediately. "And how many minutes do we have before S.H.I.E.L.D. arrives?" "There is more time, because I met a very powerful hacker 2 days ago." Natalia smiled and took out the communicator. "Hey, Sky, do me a favor, set my coordinates as S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters." After a minute, "Okay, let's start reading the U-disk." They track down the former S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, and they are greeted by a demon who has been dead for many years. Chapter 105, An Old Acquaintance 70 Years Ago. At the moment, S.H.I.E.L.D. has become a mess. Captain America, the symbol of the American spirit, not only became a traitor, but also sneaked into the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters. They didn't know that Sky had deliberately misled them. Rumno, or Crossbones, with a dark face and a team of Hydra agents scoured the building. Clatter! A basin of water was splashed on Nick Fury. With a muffled grunt, Nick Fury woke up abruptly, and what he saw was Ger with a smile on his face. "Good to see you, old friend. I should be happier if you didn't wake me up in this way. But you asked me to deal with your funeral. Why, you're glad I didn't burn you." Sharon and the others next to him laughed out loud. "Tell me, why did 07 feign death and come to me?" Thor said unhappily. "This bad old man is very bad." Nick Fury sighed. Since there is an assassination, the opponent will not give up, and it will be impossible to defend against. Only dead man is not assassinated. As for the reason why I came here is because this is the only place where Hydra dare not reach out. Okay, you can just pick a room in the small building next to it. But I don't live here for nothing, so I have to pay something. Nick Fury was a little embarrassed. "I don't think there is anything that can catch your eyes now. Yes, for example, My manor is too deserted and I need a pet. Pet? Nick Fury was a little confused. What kind of request is this? And he, the S.H.I.E.L.D. director, has to help? He tentatively asked, You don't want to raise pandas, do you? What are you thinking about? What I want is that orange cat. Thor was speechless. What kind of brain circuit is this guy? Orange cat? Nick Fury was taken aback for a moment, and immediately realized, You mean the Yuan Devourer. Since that sad story happened that year, Nick Fury never dared to touch cats anymore, but he still settled the Yuan Devourer properly in S.H.I.E.L.D. and served it with delicious food and drinks. After all, it was Captain Marvel's pet back then. Well, if I leave it to you to take care of it, I'm more at ease, and it's easy to explain when Carol comes back someday. Meow. Marinated raised his head and saw a capable woman carrying an orange cat to the yard of the manor. I just promised, and you already sent it. Nick Fury's forehead is covered with black lines. Director Nick? So you're not dead? Maria Hill was shocked. The previous S.H.I.E.L.D. incident made her at a loss, and when she was at a loss, she received a call from Thor. If you want to know the truth, then go to that place and bring an orange cat to Trudheim Manor. Thor hung up after saying the words that made him puzzled, and then she received an address on her mobile phone. For Thor, an alien visitor, she still believed in it, so she hurried over after finding the Yuan Devourer. Unexpectedly, I saw a live marinated egg. Nick Fury explained the ins and outs to her, and Hill's face was a little dignified. So what do we do now? Hill looked at Nick, Nick looked at Thor. What am I doing? You are the director. Don't tell me you have no arrangements at all. But I always feel that you should have a better way. Braised Dan was very sure of this. There is indeed a solution, but I'm afraid you won't accept it. The space carrier probably hasn't taken off yet, so I can smash it all right now, and the matter can be resolved in less than half an hour. Simple and rude, this is very Hulk. No, this is Thor. Doing this will indeed solve the Insight plan, but it will only make Washington completely intolerable for super ability people. Hill laughed out loud, and Nick slapped his thigh annoyed. Why did he forget? This guy will never push if he can do it. In the abandoned 020S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, Steve and Natalia walked into the hall, and three portraits came into view. Admiral Jack Thompson, the boss of World War II, Howard Stark, Tony's father, Peggy Carter, my predecessor. Natalia introduced him. I still remember when I was on the last mission, they watched me get on the plane. Unexpectedly, it was a big dream, and things were different. Steve was a little emotional. Luckily, Bucky is still alive, and though somehow turned into an enemy, he believes that Bucky was just deluded for a while. Entering the interior, in front of you is a huge amounts of old-fashioned computer with a strange shape, but it has a USB interface that does not match its age. Natalia stepped forward and inserted the USB drive into the slot in the middle. The screen flickered for a while, the program started, and then a skull-like face was slowly displayed. Steve Rogers, we meet again. Chapter 106 Hydra List. Arnim Zola. I remember his voice. Steve blurted out. This is the person he will never forget for the rest of his life, the one who caused him to lose Bucky. Dr. Zola? Isn't he dead? Is this a video? Natalia looked puzzled. As far as she knows, this person was a dog-headed military division under Red Skull during World War II, with many bad deeds, and was finally captured by Thor himself. Later, because of his talent and learning, he was recruited into S.H.I.E.L.D. Natalia explains to the captain what happened to Dr. Zola afterwards. I'm not a video girl. I may not be the man your man took to prison in 1945. But, I'm not me. Dr. Zola's deep voice sounded. In 1972, I was diagnosed with a terminal illness. Science could not save my body. But my mind was worth saving, so I was stored in a 200,000 foot long database. Dr. Zola's voice became enthusiastic. They think that I can help their careers. But I have always had my own career. The screen on the computer began to switch, showing the development of Hydra over the years. Everything has been inevitable since Dr. Zola was recruited. With the cooperation of the internal personnel, Hydra continued to insert its own personnel inside, infiltrating without knowing it. Today, Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. are just two sides of the same coin. Hydra has created a chaotic world, and people are finally ready to give up their freedom to gain safety. Once our purification process is complete, the new world order established by Hydra will be born. We won, Hydra hail! What exactly is the data in the USB flash drive? Natalia asked a key question. Zola algorithm. As for what it is used for, you don't need to know. Sorry, I was delaying time, a missile will explode here in 30 seconds. The door of the room was closed immediately, and Steve was about to rush to the sewer gully, but Natalia held her back, and a female voice sounded through the communicator. I have turned on the signal shielding, the missile will arrive at least 3 minutes late, the door lock has been unlocked, you go. Hydra people will soon find out that something is wrong. Inside the Trudheim Manor, Sky wiped the cold sweat off her brow. She had just successfully hacked into Dr. Zola's supercomputer at the last moment and took over the old S.H.I.E.L.D.'s control system. I didn't expect that the system left by a person who has been dead for decades is so terrible. Sky had lingering fears. If she hadn't relied on this high-tech computer integrated with alien technology, it would be difficult for her to succeed. Such a dangerous target, Hydra, can be recruited into S.H.I.E.L.D. Too scary. Nick Fury's expression was already ugly. The infiltration of Hydra started half a century ago. How many friendly forces are there in the current S.H.I.E.L.D? He dare not imagine. After thinking for a few seconds, he stepped aside, picked up his mobile phone and made a call. Sam, the captain needs help. Falcon is already one of the few trustworthy people. On the other hand, Sky handed Thor a USB flash drive. Here, I copied this from Dr. Zola's database, and the list of almost all Hydra members is in it. Nice job. Thor took the USB flash drive and rubbed Sky's head in satisfaction, messing up her hair. Sky suddenly looked like a little wild cat whose tail had been trampled on. He put his hands on his hips and said angrily, Miss Ben worked so hard for you, how many brain cells have died? Just one sentence. Okay, what reward do you want? Thor looked helpless. Because of Peggy Carter's relationship, Thor always treats Sky as a child habitually, but in fact she is already a big child in her 20s. Thor patted her on the shoulder, and a magical power flowed through Sky's body. Okay, the reward has been given to you. Looking at the bewildered Sky, mopping the floor said meaningfully, do you know the secret of Sister Pei's age? Now you are the same as her. Although not many people know about Peggy Carter's youthful appearance, there are quite a few who say it, and Sky, whom she watched and grew up with, is one of them. Over the years, she asked, Knows Zhao, the reason many times, but Peggy just smiled and prevaricated. In fact, she wasn't sure at the time. Sky was surprised and delighted, it turns out that Aunt Peggy stayed young because of you. Wow, that's great. I was still sad at first, but in a few years I'll be a 30-year-old lady. Don't worry now, hee hee. Is it necessary to be so excited? Everyone in my manor has this blessing. Thor squinted at her, what kind of soul is the 30-year-old lady? Sky slowly calmed down. Everyone in the manor has a who? She thought of the relationship between the daughters living in the manor and Thor, and Ryu's cheeks blushed suddenly. Chapter 107 Action. By the way, I have to remind you that immortality is not free. Thor added, as a balance, the reproductive ability of most races is inversely proportional to the length of lifespan. Just like my father, King, in human I have been with my mother since the Bronze Age. Up to now, there are only 3 children, and one of them is adopted. When you gain eternal life, the chance of conceiving a child is infinitely close to 0. So, I want Dink in my life. Sky said indifferently. In fact, in Western countries, people are not so eager for children, and Sky is no exception. Alexander Pierce moved quickly. Taking advantage of Nick Fury's departure, Captain America and Natasha Romanoff were wanted. He quickly persuaded the council to launch the Insight Plan. Headquarters of S.H.I.E.L.D. Pierce took a sip of champagne and excitedly said to the council members who came, "Soon 343, we will witness a new history. From this moment on, there will be no more crimes in this world, a new world is coming. For the new era, Tien Cup." As a high-level agent and boss of Hydra, he seldom expresses his emotions too much, but at this time it is still difficult to hide his inner excitement. As long as the helicarrier rises to a certain height, the weapons on it will be activated, instantly destroying all Hydra enemies. The congressmen were also very excited. They raised the champagne and drank it. Cheers to the new era. Definitely they don't know that the so-called new era is not the new era they imagined, but the new era of Hydra. At this moment, a clear voice suddenly came from the radio. "I'm Steve Rogers, Captain America. You must have heard a lot about me these days. There are many people who are hunting me. Now it's time for you to know the truth." He hesitated, and continued, S.H.I.E.L.D. has changed, it has been taken over by Hydra, and Alexander Pierce is its head. So are many of the Special Forces and Insight Project personnel, and many people around us. The counselors glanced at Pierce in surprise. Pierce was expressionless, and the phone quietly sent a few messages. The Insight Plan is their purpose, not to deal with criminals at all, but to destroy all Hydra's enemies and put the whole world under its control. I know it's hard, but the price of freedom is high, and I'm willing to pay that price. I believe, I'm not the only one. Although it was an impromptu speech, the speech was very appealing. Although they were wanted by S.H.I.E.L.D. just a moment ago, many people choose to believe in the captain and their spiritual leader. Crossbones broke into the office controlling the space carrier with a team of agents and ordered the technicians in charge of the launch, "Get into the launch sequence and let the spacecraft lift off." The audience was silent, and the head of technology, Off, glanced at him in surprise, but did not respond. "Launch the spaceship, is there a problem with what I said?" Crossbones amplified his voice. The person in charge was sweating coldly. He took a deep breath and gritted his teeth. "I'm sorry, sir. I can't launch. This is the captain's order." A gun was pressed against the back of his head. The same gun, held to the back of Crossbones' head. "You're on the wrong team, Agent Sharon," Crossbones said coldly. He gestured to put down the gun in his hand, and shot suddenly while the gun was falling, knocking Sharon down to the ground. The people at the scene immediately divided into 2 groups. Gunshots rang out, and Crossbones activated the launch system while taking advantage of the chaos. "Unfortunately, you are on the wrong team." Crossbones raised his gun indifferently, pointing at Sharon's head. "It's you who are on the wrong team." A voice sounded from behind, and before Crossbones could react, he was grabbed by the collar, and the whole person flew out immediately. Sharon looked at the tall figure in front of her and showed a smile. "I'll kill you in the next second, don't you believe it?" 07680840725550. "I'm sorry for taking your head." With a wave of Thor's hand, the surrounding Hydra agents went to the bottom instantly, twitching non-stop. Bang! A figure with a metal arm knocked Falcon to the ground. "Sam, go and insert the chip, he will give it to me." Steve stood in front of him. "Okay." Falcon didn't have hesitation, he quickly took off and rushed towards the flying space carrier. Steve looked at this familiar figure with affectionate expression on his face. "Bucky, it's me, Steve, have you forgotten?" His answer was a hard punch. At S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, the old congresswoman suddenly jumped up and quickly brought down the incoming Hydra agent, and the widow stinged at Pierce. He wiped his face with his hand, revealing a face that was disastrous to the country and the people. "Your Excellency the Secretary General, it's over." Chapter 108. If this isn't love. What to do? The space carrier has already started and can't be stopped. Sharon Carter was so anxious that she was sweating profusely and kept typing on the keyboard. "It doesn't matter, let them take off normally, nothing will happen." Thor comforted, "Even if I can't stop it in the end, I will let them crash." Finally. Sharon paused. "Before this, do you have any other plans?" "Definitely have a plan. You think I came here to save you?" "I think so, after all, there are quite a few people chasing me." On the space carrier, Falcon inserted the last chip and turned on the communicator. Fixed. In front of a huge amounts of computer screens underground, Maria Hill instantly seized control of the helicarrier from Hydra. She operated quickly, turning the densely packed clearing targets on the screen into 3 space carriers. "Wait a minute." Thor appeared behind her and took out a USB flash drive, the Hydra list in Dr. Zola's mind. "Since the space carrier is going to be destroyed, it's better to use the waste first." Hill agreed and moved away from the seat. She knew she couldn't stop it even if she tried. On the space carrier, overwhelming weapons suddenly poured down, bullets, rockets. However, Thor found that there was a blank space in the densely packed clearing o'clock on this map, which seemed to block the detection of the space carrier. "Sokovia. Ha ha ha. I won. It's useless for you to catch me, the Insight plan has been launched, and soon, Hydra will rule the world." Alexander Pierce laughed wildly, and the counselors turned pale. The next moment, Pierce's smile froze on his face as a bullet burst through the window of the S.H.I.E.L.D. building, piercing his heart. "The villain died from talking too much." Natalia complained lightly, and then added, "But even if you don't talk, you can't run away." Nick Fury looked at Pierce, who was lying on the ground and refused to die, and sighed, "Thor has cracked Dr. Zola's knowledge base and got the Hydra list." Pierce had a dazed look on his face, then closed his eyes. Nick Fury stared at his corpse in silence. Once, he could be a gun for this senior. "Bucky, wake up, we're friends." Steve was slapped wildly. In fact, his strength has long been able to win, but the opponent is Bucky. Whenever occupied, he tried to wake Bucky's mind. And then got hit again. Boom! A wave of missiles flew over, bypassing Captain America and Bucky, and killed all the nearby Hydra rushing to help. Captain America was taken aback for a moment, then glanced at Bucky, who was also in a daze. He was a bit puzzled as to why Project Insight had eliminated Hydra instead of hitting him. But before he had time to think, Bucky pounced on him again. Under this wave of attacks, the Hydra hidden all over the world was almost wiped out, and Dr. Zola had more lists in his mind than anyone else. Even many Hydra who have been lurking for many years and even the original informants are dead, and Hydra who are ready to explode at any time have all been eliminated. Except Sokovia, which shielded the signal. After clearing Hydra, the helicarrier's weapons turned on each other. Even without Hydra, Thor also didn't want the Insight project to fall into the hands of the Council. As for private embezzlement, to be honest, Thor doesn't think much of these spaceships except for his vision plan. Number 2 Holy Place, that is the romance of men. Boom! There was an explosion on the helicarrier, and Captain America and Bucky, who were still entangled, fell down together. Thor took Maria Hill into the S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, while Natalia and Sharon Carter were handling the follow-up. 0. How's the situation? Nick Fury asked. Hydra around the world has basically been cleared, except for one place where the signal is blocked, Sokovia. The scepter embedded with the mind gem is there. What about S.H.I.E.L.D? The loss is more than half. Most of them were Hydra, and some were unfortunately killed in the battle. Thor sighed, S.H.I.E.L.D can basically be disbanded. Such a big matter, the council will not let it go. Do you regret it? I won't regret it. It hurts to dig out the scabies, but only in this way can I regain my health and thrive. In a forest, Winter Soldier dragged the unconscious Captain America in the river, and dragged him ashore. According to the order received, he was going to kill the other party. However, a voice in my heart kept telling him he died, you will regret it. He sighed and decided to follow his heart. If this is not love. 5. Chapter 109, Saving People. Nick Fury's guess was not wrong. With such a big incident, the Council's trust in S.H.I.E.L.D. has plummeted. S.H.I.E.L.D., which has existed for more than half a century, is finally on the verge of dissolution. He used the hidden permission left by himself to publish all the information of SHIELD. In the end, he burned his hidden arsenal, disguised himself and left, completely destroying SHIELD. But this is only an illusion. The founder Peggy Carter, who has been retired for many years, stood up again and presided over the overall situation. With the support of former backbones such as Phil Coulson and Sharon Carter, S.H.I.E.L.D. has turned from bright to dark, and is responsible for all kinds of things that the Avengers can't take care of. 177. As Thor's lover, Peggy Carter becomes the link between the two. And Nick Fury, responsible for the Avengers when It's a pity that I put so much effort into creating S.H.I.E.L.D, and it turned out to be nothing. Why? In the living room, Peggy Carter sighed. Skye was aggrieved at the side. You don't know how those old fellows on the council questioned us. They were so angry, they were the ones who kept calling for local talents and asked Dr. Zola to be recruited into SHIELD. Now if something goes wrong, blame us for it. I'm ashamed to keep talking about the safety of the people, and I don't know who almost dropped the nuclear bomb in New York. Although Skye joined S.H.I.E.L.D. at a young age, she was not in charge of dealing with the higher UPS, so she had never experienced the shame of a politician like this. Now we are all homeless, you have to take me in. Peggy looked at Thor with a smile. Originally in history, after S.H.I.E.L.D. was disbanded, some high-level executives, including Maria Hill, entered Stark Industries. After all, Howard, the former president, was one of the founders of S.H.I.E.L.D, and the two parties got along happily. But that was without Peggy Carter. With Stark's temperament, he had managed to get rid of Obadiah, the minister who had left him alone. If there was another elder, he would probably feel uncomfortable. The current Avengers base is transformed from the Stark building. In the future, as the number of Avengers grows, they will move to a new base in the suburbs. Thor is going to invest in the construction of this new base by himself. He doesn't like the feeling of depending on others. As for funds, the United States, as a country that legally owns guns, has relatively poor security, so there are basically no people on the streets late at night. In a remote alley, a group of men in black with guns surrounded a mother and son. "Run, keep running!" the leading man in black sneered. The woman looked desperate. In fact, her husband attached great importance to their safety and brought a lot of bodyguards with him every time he went out, but this time this group of people obviously came prepared. She begged, "I beg you, let my son go. I can give you as much money as you want." The man in black laughed loudly. "Money? Although I like it very much, I only want your son's life today." He raised his gun and was about to shoot. Bang! A gunshot sounded, and the expected death did not come. The woman raised her head and saw a figure in front of her, holding the bullet with one hand. The man in black was frightened by this scene. A dog-legged sternly threatened, "Who are you? Fuck you, get out of here and mind your own business." He raised his gun to Thor's head. How dare a young man point a gun at himself? Thor sneered, "Idiot, your boss doesn't say anything, how can you speak up?" With a slap, the guy's head spun around his neck like a spinning top. After a long time, he stopped slowly, and his head fell to the ground. The neck was twisted into a thin tendon, and not even a little blood came out. The man in black was so frightened that he had already recognized the identity of the person in front of him, and shouted, "Quick retreat!" The group of people turned around and ran away. Thor didn't bother to chase, because the gang was finished, and the best result was death. He turned to look at the mother and son. "Thank you for saving my son, thank you so much." The woman hugged a little boy about 10 years old, and couldn't stop thanking Thor. Tudu. Thor was about to speak, when a burst of submachine gun shooting and screams came from 1.6 outside the alley. The gunfire subsided within 10 seconds. Thor came back to his senses, waved his hand and said, "It's okay, it's just a matter of little effort. It's easy for you, but for me, their mother and child are my everything." An extremely burly middle-aged man walked into the alley, followed by a group of bodyguards armed with submachine guns. One of the bodyguards was carrying a dying man, who was the leader of the man in black who ran out just now. It was the burly middle-aged man who spoke. Chapter 110, The Underground King. Wilson Fisk, a well-known entrepreneur and philanthropist in the United States, has a very good reputation in the eyes of the public. If there is no accident, he will become the mayor of New York in the future. Such a simple, honest, slightly obese bald man, on the surface, no one would think that he is the biggest underworld leader in New York and even the world, the king of the underground Black Empire Jinbing. Many people are deceived by Jinbin's appearance, thinking that he is just a fat man. In fact, more than 90% of his body is made of muscles, his strength is amazing, he can punch through a wall with his bare hands, and he is also a world-class fighter. Without cheating, even Captain America is no match for him. It can be said that without super abilities or high technology, Jinbin is the strongest human being. Or use it, his muscles are super ability. Low-profile version of Hulk, that's him. In addition, like many villains, 07 Jin also has a beloved person, his wife and son. "Thank you very much, Your Highness Thor. Vanessa told me what happened. If it wasn't for Your Highness's help, I would have lost my most important person today." Jinbin was grateful, and even adopted the honorific title of Your Highness to Thor. Thor glanced at his wife and children nearby. Jinbing observed his words, reacted immediately, and ordered, "Protect them and go back, clean up the blood, and then go to the police station to say hello, and say it's a gang fight." All his subordinates left with his wife and children. Only then did Jinbing turn his head, and said with humility on his cold face, "If Your Highness needs anything, I will try my best to satisfy it simply by saving my wife and children." Thor said, "Should I call you Wilson Fisk, or Kingpin?" Jinbin was taken aback, and immediately said, "Your Highness wishes me to be Wilson, and I am Wilson. Your Highness wishes me to be Jinbin, and I am Jinbin. Even, I can give everything I own to Your Highness." If someone sees his appearance, no matter what his identity is, it will be enough to make his jaw drop. Thor nodded in satisfaction. It has to be said that there is definitely a reason why Jinbin was able to start from nothing and become a super boss who eats both black and white. He is smart and courageous. He clearly knew that it was impossible for Thor to take away his inheritance, because even if he took it, it would be useless. Not everyone could control the underground kingdom, and without gold, it would be a mess. Even if it is really taken over, it is impossible to manage it in person, and it must be controlled through gold unions. And once Thor is handed over, the benefits brought cannot be measured by money. Definitely, Thor saved his wife and children is also a reason. Thor shook his head, only you can be the king of the underground, and it's useless for me to come. Then, no matter what your highness wants, as long as I can do it, I will definitely not disappoint his highness. Thor nodded in satisfaction, threw him 2 small bottles, and turned to leave. It's undiluted extremis, Kim said with surprise. Unlike the diluted products on the market, the authentic extremis is only a few batches sold to General Ross, and there are less than 20 sticks. At the beginning, he used various methods, but he only got 1. Now Thor has given him 2 more, which means that the safety of his wife and children will be greatly guaranteed. Looking at Thor's back, Jin Bin suddenly picked up his mobile phone and made a call. Thor Odinson, transfer $10 billion to this account. The person on the other end of the phone almost dropped the microphone. Back at the manor, Thor received a text message of the account notification, and he smiled with satisfaction. The value of Jin Bing is very high, whether it is his wealth or his ability to take both. The entire underground world of the United States is almost under his control. There are countless 443 officials secretly controlled by him, and even most of the FBI is controlled by him. Originally, he planned to go directly to Jin Bing's, but an accidental assassination made things easier. 070-8407 Fila 1. Jin Bing was really smart. He put himself in the position of Thor's subordinate without taking the initiative to make any demands, and instead directly called him a huge sum of money. It seems stupid, but in fact, for Jin Bin, it is impossible for Thor to directly intervene in his power, and the autonomy is still in his hands. Being Thor's subordinate in name will only make his position more stable, at least it can save the Avengers from troubles for him. The timeline of this book is different from that of the movie. For example, the plot of Hulk is placed before Iron Man, and Captain America 2 is placed before Thor 2. In fact, many plots can happen in advance. The protagonist it can help General Ross find Hulk in advance, and Hydra will also launch the Insight plan in advance because of the protagonist's sharpness, etc. Chapter 111, The Present Ether. S.H.I.E.L.D. just disbanded, there are many trivial things to deal with. About a month later, Nick Fury, who had settled down again, was ready to kill Hydra. They must not be given a chance to make a comeback, and the lessons learned from the past are right in front of us. I'm going to ask the Avengers to go to Sokovia and solve the trouble of Hydra once and for all. In the list given by Thor before, Hydra still has an important stronghold in Sokovia that has not been cleared, because Mind Gem blocked the Insight plan, so there is no signal in this area. No need to think about it, the last stronghold of Hydra, the security of this place can no longer be simply described as strict. Moreover, the opponent has a Mind Gem in his hand, so this is no longer something S.H.I.E.L.D. can handle, and the Avengers must be dispatched. Nick Fury came to Thor's door to discuss the plan of eradicating the weeds, but he was declined. The time is not yet ripe. Hydra is very vigilant now. Attacking now will only scare the enemy, and then the opponent will disperse and make troubles all over the world. Wait for them to relax and attack suddenly, and then none of them will be able to escape. In fact, this is just Nick Fury's fooling around. Others don't know what Hydra is doing in Sokovia, but he does. They are using infinite gems to conduct human experiments in an attempt to create a superhero to deal with the Avengers. At the end of this experiment, there are only 2 survivors left, one is Quicksilver, a small character. Another Wanda, but one of the most powerful in the future Avengers camp. And one Thor lowered his voice, if we fight in the past now, it is very likely that we will lose 2 future Avengers, one of which is a superhero who is stronger than me and Carlo. Nick Fury is a smart guy. Regardless of whether Captain Marvel destroyed Ronan's fleet, or Thor's record of destroying countless Chirita in one blow, he knew it all. It is no exaggeration to say that it would not take much effort for either of these 2 people to destroy the Earth. To what extent would a superhero stronger than them reach? He no longer dared to imagine. In fact, Thor couldn't get away at this time. This morning, Sif suddenly told Thor a news: Jane Foster is missing. Just last night, because an anomaly was detected in the space near Stonehenge in England, Jane went to the local area to investigate. Then all of a sudden lost contact. Sif contacted Heimdall, but even Heimdall couldn't find her, as if she had disappeared frequently. Thor, who knew the plot, was not too worried. He came to England, opened a room near Stonehenge, and waited for Jane's return. In a dark world, Miss Jane is fully armed, holding Mjolnir tightly and walking slowly forward. Although she has become a female Thor, her greatest hobbies are still astronomy and space science. For a while, she was traveling around, and when she heard the abnormality of Stonehenge, she rushed over immediately, but she entered this strange space in a daze. This place gave her a very oppressive feeling, all means of contact had lost their effect, and it seemed to be boundless, and she couldn't get out. She clenched Mjolnir tightly, paying attention to the surrounding noises vigilantly. At this moment, a runestone pillar appeared in front of it, and a narrow gap in the middle divided it into two halves. In the gap, strands of red mist that looked like smoke were constantly churning. Miss Jane approached cautiously, tense. Suddenly, the group of red mist erupted instantly and rushed towards her. Miss Jeon was caught off guard and was rushed into her body by the mist. Not good. Miss Jeon turned pale with shock. Although she didn't know the details of the red mist, it was definitely not a good thing from such an evil look. Before I had time to check my physical condition, I felt my mind sink and passed out. This is a desolate world, a dead silence, not a blade of grass grows. Wardheim, the place where the Dark Elves once lived in the Nine Realms. Since many years ago, Bor, the last king of Aci, Norley, Gard, led an army to defeat the Dark Elves. This place has become a place of death that no one wants. A huge amounts of spaceship suddenly appeared here. On the spaceship, a pale face slowly opened his eyes. He slowly opened his withered lips, and said hoarsely, "The ether has awakened us. The celestial bodies are about to converge. This time, we must take back the ether, restore our glory back then, and let the entire universe return to darkness. People of Asgard, you have had enough time in peace, this time, your end has come." King of the Dark Elves, Malekith. Chapter 112 Returning to Asgard. Jane slowly opened her eyes and looked at the ceiling in front of her. "Where am I? The funds have been transferred to your card. I will be away for a while, so you will help in the construction of the new base of the Avengers. The venue should be as large as possible, and money is not a problem. In the future, S.H.I.E.L.D. can also settle in it." Thor's voice came. "Damn it, where did you get so much money? Don't tell me the research center earned it." Natalia complained from the other side of the phone. "Although Maya Hansen's research income is quite a lot, it is absolutely impossible to have 10 billion. Don't worry, the money was obtained through legitimate channels, and there will be no problem. This is not a lie. Jin Bingming's identity on the surface is a big entrepreneur and a super rich man, and the money given to him is completely fine. Even if there is a problem, it can become okay. As for secretly, he might be worth more than Tony Stark. By the way, remind Nick Fury, about Sokovia, don't act rashly until I come back. Unless he is ready for the Avengers to die." This is not alarmist talk. Wanda's ability fluctuates like a 100 roller coaster. Without the battle strength like myself or Jane, if you rush in recklessly, if someone breaks out, you may really kneel. After hanging up the phone, Thor turned to the bewildered Jane Foster, smiled and said, "How do you feel? Is there any discomfort?" Jane shook her head, "It's okay, but I'm a little tired. I fell into a strange space, and there was grey silence everywhere. Before I passed out, a red mist entered my body, and I didn't know it was a hef." Then he asked in a low voice, "I didn't screw up something, did I?" That space feels very evil to me, like a place where some demon is sealed. This brain hole. Thor shook his head and explained to her, it's none of your business. The space you mentioned should be related to the Dark Elves. This is an evil race. They are determined to expel the light in the universe and bring the world back into darkness. Many years ago, the former king of Asgard, my grandfather Bor, led an army to fight against them. In that war, the Dark Elves used a treasure called ether to create a large number of cursed warriors. In the end, we won. The ether is missing. If I'm not mistaken, the red substance in your body is the legendary ether. And its other name is Reality Gem, and its ability is Alter Reality. Thor's words attracted Miss Jane. She is no longer the stupid scientist she was at the beginning. She learned some knowledge about infinite gems from Asgard's classics. Jane Foster asked curiously, but, since they have treasures that can alter reality, how could the Dark Elves lose? Thor knocked her on the head with his finger. Do you really think that a gem is invincible? Alter reality, such a heaven-defying ability, must have limitations. Otherwise, wouldn't other infinite gems be just a display? On the one hand, the greater the modification, the more energy is needed to activate it. When the energy is not enough, it will draw the vitality of the user. Secondly, its modification effect is time-sensitive. When the Dark Elf was transformed into a cursed after the fighter, the duration is very short, and once the effect expires, it will run out of life and die. This is why Thanos needs to collect 6 gems to snap his fingers. The pure reality gem is actually a bit tasteless, the effect of erasing life is limited, and it must be helped by other gems. A power gem that provides the energy needed to wipe out half of life. Space gem, let the range of snapping fingers spread to the entire universe. The time gem, makes alter reality's time permanent and never disappears. As for what role the mind gem and soul gem played in it, Thor doesn't know much. Jane's eyeballs rolled, as if thinking of something. Thor saw her thoughts at a glance, and said with a smile, don't think about taking advantage of loopholes, it won't work. I checked just now, and when the lifespan becomes infinite, our lifespan will not be recognized by the ether. Miss Jian stuck out her tongue, feeling very embarrassed to be poked in the center. What are we going to do now? I just heard you say you're leaving, where are you going? Jane is actually a very assertive and independent career woman. But in front of Thor, she was used to listening to him. I'll take you back to Asgard. Although the ether won't hurt you temporarily, it's definitely not a good thing to stay in the body for a long time. I'll take you back and let the magicians check it out. Thor picked up Jane, who was still a little weak, and jumped downstairs from the window, shouting to the sky, Heimdall, take us back. The bright light communicated with the world, and Thor and Jane disappeared in place. Chapter 113 Dark World. Hello and welcome to Asgard, valiant humans. I am Asgardian of Bifrost, Heimdall. Heimdall greets Jane Foster. In the original book, he is polite to Jane Foster because of Thor. And now, for the new Thor that Mjolnir has approved, he respects it from the bottom of his heart. On a faintly shining platform, Jane Foster was lying on her back, and several witches were examining her. A certain substance in her body is very dangerous and may explode at any time. If it is not for the divine power in her body to protect her, she may become very weak. A witch spoke. Thor nodded and asked her, can you extract that substance? The witch was silent. Thor also had a headache. As far as he knows, there are only 2 ways to extract Ti particles, one is to resonate with Malkitha's energy and suck them out. The other is going to find a certain little raccoon. Thor doesn't believe that the ether can be drawn out with a normal big syringe. If it is determined that this is ether, there may be a way to extract it. Odin's voice sounded. You are. Jane looked at Odin who walked in the door. The king of God, Odin, father of Thor, Asgardian of the 9 realms. Odin came in and said solemnly, ether is the reality gem in infinite gems. We call it ether precisely because other gems usually exist in the form of stone, but ether is liquid and constantly changing, only in certain conditions. Under the carrier, he will show the form of infinite gems. It converts various substances into dark matter, looks for new hosts, and secretly absorbs energy from the host's vitality. Then how do we take it out? Thor was a little worried. Although Jane will not be sucked away because of the blessing of eternal life. But if the ether stays in her body for a long time like a parasite, it is not a good thing. The function of ether is to change the reality, which needs to consume the host's strength or vitality. In layman's terms, it is to make a wish. If it is a simple wish, the energy consumed is not large. After you take her to your mother in a while, she is better at all kinds of things. Black magic, you can tell her how to mobilize energy to make a wish to the ether and expel it from the body. Thor nodded. The 9 kingdoms are about to join forces, and we will soon be able to invade Asgard. I can sense that the ether is there. On the Dark Elf's huge amounts of spaceship, Malekith took out a dark red gem, and said in a low voice, "This is the core that we sacrificed a large number of compatriots through the ether. Algrim, you will finally accept curse, become a curse warrior. Are you ready?" Algrim, the strongest fighter under him, looked fanatical at this moment. "I am willing to give my life, just like our people." Malekith nodded in satisfaction, took out a silver dagger, cut Algrim's body, and stuffed the red gemstone that exuded evil aura into his wound. He whispered in Algrim's ear, "You will be cursed by this world until you are fully assimilated." Algrim said slowly, "At that time, our enemies will no longer be able to stop you. I will completely smash them and create a brand new universe full of darkness for you." 0. Seeking flowers. A moment later, several dark elf fighter planes with strange shapes flew out of the spaceship. "Odin keeps sending me new neighbors, really thoughtful." In Asgard's dungeon, Loki looked at the new batch of prisoners who came in with a sarcasm on his face. "Aren't you interested in the request I sent?" Frigga's voice sounded behind him. "Ha, do you want me to be a bookworm forever?" 0. "No, I'm just doing my best to make your life better." "Really?" Loki sneered, "Where's Odin? He thinks the same? And Thor? Ha, I'm really sorry to make them worry about me so much." "Loki." Frigga's tone became a little more serious, "It's entirely your own fault for getting to where you are today." "Oh? Didn't Odin say I was born to be king? I just did what he said." "You have killed countless lives on Earth. A true king must dare to admit his mistakes." "Your father?" "He's not my father." Loki growled suddenly. Frigga paused, looked into his eyes and asked, "What about me? Am I not your mother?" Loki and her looked at each other for a few seconds, turned his head, and said coldly, "Neither are you." "Hey, mother, so you are here," I said. "Why can't I find you?" Loki paused, hearing the last sound he wanted to hear. Chapter 114 Dark Elf Invasion. In Loki's cell, a brutal and inhumane ravage was going on. Loki felt like he was back to the days when he was beaten up every day, and it was a mixed doubles. The difference is that Sif was replaced by the more violent Miss Jane. This one is for New York. This is Miss Jane. After a slap, she found that she could no longer get her hands in. "It's okay to be disrespectful to your elder brother, but how dare you treat your mother with such an attitude? This is Thor, he is attacking from all directions." Frigga didn't stop him. "Loki is really too much, he deserves to be beaten." Thor drew a portal. "Jane, 257, you and the Queen go back first, and I need Loki to communicate with each other." The two of them were sent away. "She's not my mother. You're not my brother." Loki roared angrily, but his roar was like the scream of the victim, not even a strong condemnation, but it made Thor fight harder. "Hoo!" Rubbing his sore arms, Thor complained, "I won't beat you anymore, I'm exhausted, beating people is also a work of strength. Loki's face was murderous. Okay, we're not in a good mood today, and we can't talk about any tricks. I'll come to you another day. Thor turned and left. No wonder, he hid in the shadows and stared at a burly guy in the cell opposite Loki. Not surprisingly, this dark elf will soon become a cursed warrior. Hello, my name is Jane Foster, Thor's girlfriend on Earth. Facing Frigga, Jane was obviously a little nervous. Unlike Odin, who sees himself as a good warrior, a potential new god. The way Frigga looked at her was purely for her daughter-in-law. Thor, you bastard, you don't accompany your parents when you see them. Son, don't be nervous. Thor told me about you, and I know all about your experiences together. A loud noise came and caught their attention. Is something wrong with the prison? Thor's still in there, and there won't be any big trouble. In the prison, the cursed warrior broke out suddenly, broke through the prison gate, and released a large number of prisoners. Prisoners here, most of whom were vicious, were suddenly freed and rioted in an instant. They rushed to the door and were blocked by Thor. If you go back to the cell now, forget it, it's too full, just to make room. With a bang punch, it hit the head of the prisoner in front of him, smashing his forehead with his helmet. The prisoners were frightened by his killing decisively, and then they rushed up together with despair in their eyes, including the cursed warrior. As for Miss Jane, he is not worried. Firstly, Kai cursed the warrior to be held back, and secondly, Jane's strength was not much worse than that of herself at the same time in the original drama. Loki was speechless watching this scene. My brother once again showed his black belly, playing fishing and law enforcement so slippery. Thor, who was hiding in the dark, couldn't hide it from Loki, but he deliberately waited for the prisoners to riot before showing up. On Bifrost, Heimdall suddenly felt an unknown flight object approaching Zero. He rushed up to a good tower next to Bifrost, leaped onto an invisible being, and slammed the guardian sword into it. The invisible flight object showed its figure. It was a black fighter plane that had never been seen before. As a fighting nation, Asgard's reaction was not unpleasant. Almost at the same time as the color fighter plane appeared, the siren sounded. Seeing that the sneak attack method was ineffective, the Dark Elves no longer hid, and countless black fighter planes rushed to meet Asgard's troops. One side is a hasty counterattack, the other side is a long-planned attack, and the two sides are evenly matched. Asgard's strength and background are fully displayed. Heimdall realized that it was difficult to stop the invasion of the Dark Elves. He quickly ran to the Bifrost control room, raised the Guardian Sword and was about to insert the switch, and opened the protective cover guarding the Golden Hall. If this protective cover is opened, and the cursed warrior inside is held back by Thor and unable to destroy the shield generator, the Dark Elves' invasion this time will definitely end in failure. At that time, they will face Asgard, which has completely burst out its war potential and is full of soldiers. The steel torrent composed of countless fighter planes and spaceships can drown all enemies. At this moment, a Dark Elf fighter suddenly changed direction and slammed into the direction of Heimdall. The Dark Elf driving the fighter shouted an incomprehensible slogan, which probably meant Hydro Hail. Heimdall was caught off guard by the rushing fighter plane and flew out. The Guardian Sword fell aside before it could be inserted into the switch. Chapter 115 Variables, Cursed Warrior Malekith. Boom! The invasion of the Dark Elves is almost desperate, and countless fighters are raging over Asgard. In addition to heading towards the Golden Hall, there are more options to bomb the civilian area below to divert the opponent's attention. Facing thousands of years of hatred, Malekith would not care about civilian casualties, let alone in enemy territory. Every huge amounts of fighter planes were shot down, and what fell below was a small-scale destruction. In front of the Golden Hall, anti-aircraft guns covered with runes fired continuously golden shells, and the dense artillery formed a barrage that almost covered the entire sky. A group of the most elite commandos drove their fighter planes into the barrage in the sky 07, opening a hole for the fighter planes behind them, and more fighter planes crashed straight into the main entrance of the Golden Hall, rushing towards the building, a temple that has never been invaded by foreign enemies. The main entrance of the magnificent hall was smashed to pieces on the spot, and the black fighter plane rushed to the innermost part like a bulldozer. Malekith jumped off the fighter plane, looked at Odin's throne ahead, and laughed wildly. Odin was not there, and the guards guarding in front of Odin's throne quickly drew their swords out of their sheaths. The ether is in that direction, you must hold off if you stay here. Odin's throne remained in sight, but Malekith knew what was more important. As long as you rush to the place where the ether is, no matter whose body it is possessed in, the Dark Elf's secret technique is enough to extract it together with the opponent's vitality. The Dark Elves rushed up and fought with Odin's Praetorians. Although the number is small, the strength of the Imperial Guards far exceeds that of the opponent. They attached their divine power to the shield and withstood the opponent's laser gun. If it weren't for the more terrifying black technology black hole grenade, the Dark Elves would be vulnerable. Relying on a huge number and the support of the black hole grenade, the Dark Elves barely suppressed the guards. Until Odin, who quelled chaos everywhere, came. It took more than 10 minutes for Odin to arrive with his guards. With a wave of the holy gun Kungunir, 1,000 dazzling golden lights flashed, and the Dark Elf in sight suddenly turned into fly ash. After defeating this group of Dark Elves, Odin suddenly woke up Frigga. Since it was the Dark Elves who came to attack, their target is likely to be the Ether, and Ether's resident Jane Foster is in Frigga's palace. Odin bolted away. Malekith pushed open the door of the bedroom, and a middle-aged woman came into view. "Stand back, monster!" The majestic Queen Frigg looked at him with a long sword in her hand. "Get out of here immediately, I can spare your life." Malekith sneered, "Oh, let me get what I want, and I can make you live to see the destruction of Asgard." What responded to him was a flash of sword light. The speed of this sword was very fast. If it wasn't for the intuition of the top powerhouse, which made him subconsciously flash, that blow just now was enough to seriously injure him. One hit missed, and another stab came, and Malekith dodged hastily. Being taken the lead by the opponent, Malekith was quite embarrassed to resist. "You've pissed me off, old woman." Malekith knew that if Odin let go, he would lose all chances, and he had to put all his eggs in one basket. Algrim could no longer count on it. Facing Frigg's hard blow, he sneered and crushed a walnut-like cursed core in his hand. He had already been prepared, and if he couldn't do anything, he would make himself a cursed warrior. The bright red light spread from his arms to his whole body like lava, and his already burly figure further swelled. Frigga stabbed with a sword, but it was as if he had pierced metal. An ray of fire appeared from the tip of the sword. Malekith twitched desperately, and a terrifying roar came from his ever-expanding body. There was no doubt that terrifying power was being bred inside, as if a terrifying giant beast that had been sleeping for a long time was waking up. 283 Huge amounts of roar resounded through the sky. In the dungeon, the head of the cursed warrior Algrim hangs down. Thor drew his sword from his body, and with one blow he beheaded him. In the direction of Frigg's bedroom, Malekith's roar came. Thor was startled, and suddenly thought that there may not be only one cursed core left by Malekith. In the current situation, he must have put all his eggs in one basket to transform himself. Watching the dungeon in chaos, Thor punches Loki's cell and frees him. Loki is a little confused. "Listen, I'll just say this once. The Dark Elves have invaded, and now they've reached Mother's bedroom. Mother is in danger, and I have to save her. You can choose to mess around, it's your choice." After finishing speaking, he turned around and left, rushing in the direction of Frigga. Chapter 116 Showdown. The Palace of Asgard is different from other places. In order to ensure safety, Odin ordered to build a large number of space barrier magic circles, which prevented the possibility of space movement in the temple. In the Palace of Asgard, there is only one person who can activate the space teleportation with the defense mode turned on, the Sorcerer Supreme Ancient One, and Thor, a half-witted magician, is far from being able to do it. Now it seems that all of this is like lifting a rock and shooting himself in the foot, and Thor's portal cannot be opened. Luckily, he has a quick flight ability that replicates Captain Marvel. The huge amounts of roar also alarmed Odin in the distance. An ominous premonition arose in his heart and he quickened his pace, but a large number of dark elves kept rushing forward to die, delaying time abruptly. Odin was equally anxious. In his life, he has calculated many people, enemies, allies, brothers, and even his own daughter. If it weren't for the short lifespan, you, the heir who showed his sharpness, would be suspicious of him. But he never thought about putting Frigga in danger. In the original play, it was Frigga's death that caused Odin to explode with anger that he hadn't experienced in thousands of years, and almost launched a national war against the Dark Elves. Inside the bedroom, Malekith, who had transformed into a cursed warrior egg, laughed wildly, and grabbed the queen with one claw. Frigg raised her long sword to block, but was twisted by a claw, and slapped heavily on her chest, causing her to spit out a mouthful of blood and fly backwards. Malekith stepped forward, grabbed her by the neck and lifted her up. "Tell me, where is Ein?" "You'll never get it." Frigga glared at him. "You can't see it anymore." Malekith raised the dagger in his hand. "I really want to see what Odin will look like when he sees your corpse. If you kill her, you'll never get the ether." A voice suddenly interrupted his movements, and Jane Foster stood at the door, holding a tube of potion in his hand. She who had just taken out the ether had spent a lot of energy and seemed a little weak. "Give me the ether. I can let her go." Malekith pinched Frigga's neck to prevent her from speaking, and the dagger in the other hand pressed against her chest. Jane stared at him closely, suddenly flicked her hand, and threw the ether out of the door. While Malekith was looking in the direction of the ether, Mjolnir flew out of her hand, knocking him staggering. The body shot out and pulled Frigg over. Malekith stretched out his hand, and a dark red energy wrapped around the ether, pulling it back into his hand. "Stay!" An extremely condensed lightning strike arrived, hitting Malekith's face, and his cheeks burst open immediately. If it was Malekith who hadn't been strengthened, this blow was enough to kill most of him. But in the face of the cursed warrior, he just staggered. "I admit I underestimated you, woman," Malekith said angrily. It's not that he didn't notice the divine power in Jane Foster's body, but he saw that Jane was under 30, and subconsciously regarded her as the second generation of gods who were pampered. After all, he found that the overall strength of Asgard was not as good as it was back then. He didn't expect to be so embarrassed by her beating, which immediately made him angry. "Stupid woman, I want to." With a crisp sound of pang, Mjolnir flew from behind him, hit him hard on the back of the head, and flew back to Miss Jane's hands, and Malky, who was caught off guard, immediately ate shit. A dazzling thunder flashed, and the black battle armor wrapped Jane's whole body. Frigga clutched her chest and looked at the majestic Miss Jane, muttering to herself, "Thor, you really have a good eye." Immediately shouted, "Go, you are not his opponent." Miss Jane turned a deaf ear to it, and it was impossible for her to leave the seriously injured Frigga. Turning around at high speed, Mjolnir rushed up, and Wolf slapped Malekith. Bang! With a loud noise, Jane flew upside down and broke a pillar. Under the protection of the power of thunder, she was not injured, but her eyes were a little more dignified. The monster in front of him was far more powerful than her. Her strength is about the same as that of Thor at the same time in history, and she can barely deal with ordinary cursed warriors, but, are you okay? Facing the super cursed warrior transformed by Malekith, she is no match at all. "Since you want to die so much, I will fulfill you." The spicy chicken shreds that became a cursed warrior dragged across a stone pillar, and became indestructible under the wrap of dark power. The stone pillar fell heavily, and Jane quickly rolled to avoid the pillar, and took advantage of this gap to hit Malekith on the chin with a hammer, and retreated before Malekith counterattacked. After becoming a cursed warrior, his strength and endurance have been improved by huge amounts but his agility has dropped a lot, his movements are wide open and close, and he has a lot of flaws. Jane Foster started the fight. Chapter 117 Anger. Every move of Malekith is shaking and full of momentum, but his movements are too big, but it is difficult to hit Jane Foster. Because of her size, Jane can often slip through the gaps in his moves, and the Mjolnir in her hand hits the vitals from time to time. Although it can't cause any damage, it is enough to make him angry. If facing a muscular opponent like Hulk, maybe Jane can grind him to death slowly. But it's a pity that Malekith is not. Before he became a cursed warrior, he was an old bastard. The guy who planned this dark elf invasion didn't lose his mind as he transformed into a cursed warrior. He quickly thought of a way. Huge amounts of stone pillars slammed towards Frigga fiercely. As a witch, Frigga originally didn't have such agility. 997, not to mention being seriously injured, she couldn't escape her and closed her eyes. Bang! There was a loud noise, and Jane Foster blocked the stone pillar with a hammer, and the huge amounts of power made her blood boil. Before he had time to catch his breath, the spicy chicken shreds hit him again. Bang bang bang! 3 consecutive heavy blows, Jane's legs have sunk into the floor, and the tiger's mouth has begun to crack, oozing blood. Mjolnir buzzed and quivered as it tried to pull her away, but Jane didn't move. There was a sneer at the corner of Spicy Chicken's mouth. The main purpose of this invasion was to seize the ether. If he could kill this young and potential new god, he would be very happy. It's over, Way Woman. Thor hurried over. Malekith was raising the stone pillar high and was about to smash it down. Jane Foster was already bleeding from the corner of his mouth. Thor didn't have time to think about it. He turned into a flash of lightning and rushed towards him, hitting the stone pillar filled with dark energy. With a click, the stone pillar was completely shattered. Before Malekith could react, a hand was placed on his shoulder, spinning around randomly. Thor grabbed him and fell heavily to the ground. His ugly face hit the ground. A deep hole was smashed into the extremely solid floor blessed by the Asgard magic circle. Thor dug his head into his long elf ears, and punched it hard, with a loud bang, and punched it down again. In a few moments, Malekith's face was bloody. A red light flashed and pushed Thor away, which was the power of ether.